Hello and welcome back to DMCA Chess Academy. This is Chess Coach Ritesh Mathew. Whenever I train my students on any new opening or any opening for that matter, I always tell them to look for the main features and characteristics and salient features of any opening. And I ask them not to memorize any opening moves, because trying to memorize opening moves is pointless, because in chess the number of possible moves and permutations and combinations could be astronomical. So instead of memorizing moves, I tell my students to look for the salient features and structure and characteristics of any opening. So just like in music, how you have different genres, pop music, jazz, blues, country, classical. Each music genre has different characteristics and different features. So similarly, chess openings also, they have different characteristics and some very prominent features in different openings. So with that said, I'm going to show you some main characteristics in the Queen's Gambit accepted and declined line, and based on those typical features and characteristics, you may use some motifs and ideas and some traps. There are lots of motifs and ideas that arise because of these salient characteristics of different chess openings. So with that said, let's look at some motifs and some traps and some blunders. Okay, so in the Queen's Gambit, if you're playing white, you play pawn to d4. Black will respond with pawn to d5. You offer up a gambit by playing c4 pawn. Black takes the gambit, and here you can play the pawn to e3. So open up the bishop's diagonal to recapture your pawn. Now typically, because in the opening both the players are fighting for the center, black might try to undermine your central pawn on d4 and attack the pawn. Okay, so here you can continue with bishop captures c4 and recapture your lost pawn. And here black might capture your d4, c captures d. Here I suggest that instead of focusing on the pawn, you can develop your knight. So you can develop your second piece. Okay. Now if black is a beginner chess player and he has just learned the Queen's Gambit line, and probably he doesn't know the nuances and how to handle it, he might fall for this trap and d captures e. So he might get excited and capture your other pawn. Here black can simply resign. It's all over. Okay, so if you want to pause the video and find white's next move, you may do so now. Alright, so if you found out this move, then congratulations. Bishop captures f7. So what's the main idea here? Well, our queen is attacking the black queen, and the only one in black's camp protecting the queen is the king. So in chess there is a tactic called deflection. So what happens is, when bishop captures the f7 gives a check, sadly the only way for black to get rid of the check is king captures the bishop, and then nobody is guarding the queen any longer. So queen captures the queen, and it's all over for black. So see how the d file gets opened up and queen captures queen is possible. So this is one of the strongest characteristics of Queen's Gambit. So let's go back and check a few more variations and see how f7 pawn and the d file opens up. Okay, so after d captures c4 and black accepts your gambited pawn, you continue with e3, and here actually after black captures the d4, if you go for knight c3, my apologies, then again black might try to undermine your central pawn by playing e5. So if black plays e5, you can continue with e3 and opening up the bishop's diagonal, ready to capture the black pawn on c4. Here if e takes, then you can also do e takes. Okay, Now here black might continue with a developing move, knight to f6. So you can also develop your light square bishop and recapture your the pawn, black's pawn. Here black may continue with another developing move, bishop to e7. You can continue with your developing move, knight to f3. And typically, you know, black's light square bishop comes to g4 and tries to pin the knight. So in the queen's gambit accepted and declined lines, you know, when the bishop comes to g4, you know, you can use this tactic again, and bishop captures f7 pawn. So it looks like white is giving up a bishop just to get a pawn. So what's the main idea here? Well, the main idea is knight is the only one guarding the black bishop right now. So what you're going to do is you're going to decoy the king to black king to f7, and after the king is decoyed, you're going to double attack the bishop and also give a check to the king and double attack the bishop. So when you give up your bishop for the price of a pawn, black will capture your bishop, and here you go. Here comes your tactic. Knight e5, not only a check but also double attacking and forking the bishop. So king goes to f8, and here you get your material back because you sacrificed your bishop for the price of a pawn, and here's how you're going to regain your material back. So again, you see the f7 pawn targeted in the queen's gambit lines. So let's look at another variation. So after black accepts your gambit, another line you can try is knight goes to f3. You can just make a developing move. So here black may also make a developing move, knight to f6. You play e3 and solidify your d4 pawn. Alright. Now here black can continue in two different ways. Either he can play the pawn to g6 or he can play the pawn to e6. Let's check both variations. If pawn to g6, then you can continue with developing your light square bishop and capturing the pawn. Okay. Now again, if the bishop tries to pin your knight, you know, this is a very popular motif that black tries to do, develop his light square bishop and pin our knight to the queen. Okay, here again it may seem like the knight cannot move because it's pinned, but you can shock your opponent by moving the knight. Now if black is a beginner chess player and he doesn't know the nuances of the queen's gambit, then he might get excited again and capture your queen, but it's game over for black. It's all over. Checkmate in one. Bishop captures f7 is mate. Alright, so that's what happens if black plays g6. But what if he plays the pawn to e6? Okay, let's check that line. So again, you can capture the pawn, and then if black tries to undermine your central pawn by the c5 pawn push, then first I suggest that you can move your queen out of the way to e2, c takes, e takes, and if knight b to d7, you can play knight e5 and attack the f7 pawn. Alright, now if black develops his bishop in an attempt to castle, even before he can castle, again you can target the f7 pawn by sacrificing your knight. Alright, so king captures the knight and queen e6 check. Alright, now if king goes to e8 or f8, it's going to be checkmate in one by queen going to f7. So instead of black moving the queen to e8 or f7, he's going to go to g6 square. Here you can give a check. Alright, so here of course the knight is pinned to the king, so knight cannot move. So king goes to h5, then another checkmate is queen h3. Alright, so these are the two lines, g6 and e6 after queen's gambit accepted. Let's check a few more lines. So after black captures your pawn, gambited pawn, you continue with e3. Alright, continue with e3 and solidify your d4 pawn. So here if knight comes to c6, then you can continue with bishop takes c4, and then if knight attacks the bishop, again remember the f7 weakness. Okay, so right now knight is trying to attack our bishop, but nobody is protecting the black knight. Black knight is hanging. So again, you can decoy the black king to f7, and after you decoy, you can attack the king and the hanging knight at the same time. So here, after knight a5, you capture the pawn, right? So it may seem like you are sacrificing the bishop just to get a pawn, but after king captures, queen h5 check, and you're forking the knight as well. So if black blocks the check by playing g6, then you can regain material, and black has lost the right to castle. So white is doing much better over here. White has significant advantage over here. And finally, let's look at this d file weakness from black side by checking one line. So d4, d5, white offers the gambit, black accepts it, and then white plays the e3 move and supporting his d4 pawn. All right. So here, if you're playing from the black side, you may also undermine white's central pawn. So you may push the pawn to e5. And again, if white is a beginner chess player who has just learned the queen's gambit and he doesn't know how to handle, then he might capture the your e5 pawn. Again, you see the d file has opened up, and black can go ahead and exchange the queens, and the king, white king, is the only one who can recapture the black queen. And here, you know, white already lost the right to castle. So this is a very a nice advantage for black. White lost the right to castle, and black can continue with his development. So remember the main characteristics. Okay, whenever you see the queen's gambit on the board, then the d file gets open. So look out for these kind of tactics, and then also the f7 pawn weakness. All right, so don't always rush to capture the queen, or don't always rush to capture the f7 pawn, because every position and every situation is unique and different. So you have to remember these characteristics in the queen's gambit and see if any of these ideas are applicable, any of these motifs are possible. Okay, so I hope you like this video. Please like and subscribe to my channel Chess Melody for more chess and music related videos. All right, so thank you and have a great day.